This is Traveller's World, where every episode takes you to new destinations and uncovers incredible travel stories. I'm your host, David Barrett, and today we're joined by an extraordinary traveller who has embarked on some truly remarkable adventures. Let's get started. Presented in partnership with Travel Daily News Asia Pacific, welcome to this episode of Traveller's World. Harry, tell us about NomadMania.
NomadMania is a world of its own, a project that I could never imagine would take off the way it has. Initially, I would say it was just a list of places to visit. The idea was that I had already done all the countries and then I was left without a travel aim.
When you say done all the countries, done what countries?
Well, the 193 United Nations members.
Oh my goodness. So you've visited every 193 nations country?
I have. I've actually done it twice.
That's awesome. So having traveled, you then were inspired with this NomadMania.
Yes. So initially the idea was, let's find a way to make the world bigger or more complex. Most people who travel a lot have as an aim to do every country, but there's so much to countries that just doing a capital or an area is not enough. So we came along and said we're going to divide countries into regions, and we're going to make a kind of portal which has at least 1,200 regions. And that is very challenging.
Yes. Because I would think if somebody's setting out on a challenge, like if I was trying to do 193, I might get a stamp, go into a country and come out again. And so your concept is for people to actually go deeper within the nations.
Well, I mean, that's what travel is all about. It should be about understanding another country, seeing as much of it as you can. And if you're just focusing on one place, then how much do you really learn about it? Especially, I think people tend to travel to the capital or to the biggest city. And I mean, I live in the UK and everyone says, well, how's your life in London? And I keep on saying, I don't live in London. You know, there's more to the UK than that. So I do think that by having all these regions, we offer our community many more possibilities to really explore the world.
And by being this global traveller, has that compromised your personal relationships?
It has to a certain extent. I think it's a challenge to keep a balance between your travel life and your personal life. It's true that sometimes I feel I've abandoned some old friends. We don't see each other or talk to the extent that we used to. I'm very lucky to be married and to have a very, very, very patient better half. But it is difficult and it's a constant challenge.
And does your partner travel with you when you go on these?
No, not very much. No. I mean, I don't think two travelers would be able to make it unless they're traveling non-stop on the road. And that's not our situation. Someone has to work, and that's not me. So, yeah.
You're officially based in the UK, but a citizen of the world. Let's take the UK out of the mix. Having visited all of these 193 nations, which one would you pick to be home?
Now, that's a very interesting question. It's one I don't really like because it makes me have to choose. But I have thought about it, and I've thought, which country offers variety in terms of scenery and nature, a relatively budget cost of living, good food and friendly people who I can communicate with. And given that I speak Spanish, I'm going to choose Argentina. So it's a bit of a mess, Dysfunctional for sure, but in a kind of charming way. And in Argentina, you've got the north, which is essentially almost desert, and then you've got the extreme south, which is Arctic, or Antarctic almost. So I do think Argentina covers the range of climate, and it's a charming place. So I would live there very happily.
And what is the most daunting destination you visited where you would recommend that I pack peanuts, a good book, and a gun? Where is the scariest place that I should avoid?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that depends a lot on when you go. These places don't stay constant. Right now, I'd probably say Sudan, at this point in time, because of the civil war there, you would probably definitely need a gun. But I'd be like, don't go.
So on your travels, have you gone to places where you felt that your safety was threatened?
To a certain extent. I mean, when you're doing every country, you will inevitably go to Afghanistan, Yemen, Central African Republic. These places are sort of dodgy at all times. But I think you can always minimize the risks by being sensible, by getting information, by trying to blend in where possible. So in Afghanistan, I actually did buy a local dress, and my features are such that I could actually pass for Afghan, I think. So, I think I looked the part. But yeah, obviously you do have a share of dangerous places. And I have been to Mogadishu 3 times, and it's considered the kind of danger capital of the world.
And thankfully you're here to tell the story. So after all of these adventures to date, you set up NomadMania, and you've got this challenge now of 1,301.
Yes.
How do people join NomadMania? Is it a club? Is it a website? Or
Well, joining is, it's online. It's very easy. You just sign up. It's free. I believe very much in being democratic, and one of the aims of NomadMania is to get members from everywhere, including countries where you wouldn't expect there would be travelers. One of our relatively highly ranked travelers is from Sierra Leone, so you'll never imagine that there can be a traveler from there, but that is what's great, and then when we get together and sometimes meet people from these countries, it's really refreshing, you see them in a different light. So all you need to do is sign up, make a profile, fill in your regions. That's very important. We like it when people have a full profile. Then you get a very nice map which kind of illustrates how far you've gone. Some people think, I haven't done enough, I'm not good enough, but there's no such thing as being good enough, I think your only competition should be yourself, and you should always just try to expand your horizons to the extent that you can.
so is there currently a nomad maniac who's visited all 1,301 places?
No, there isn't.
Who's top of the leaderboard at the moment?
Embarrassingly, it's me. But I hate that. Really, I do. Because then people say, he made the list because he wants to be number 1. But that's not how it was made.
So, Harry, what's your number at the moment?
I'm on 1,293.
Oh, my goodness.
So I'm missing 8 regions, of which I would say at least 4 are almost impossible to get to now. So, I know I'm not going to finish the list, but that's not the aim anyway. It's to explore as much as possible.
Can you share with me a highlight of all your travels? What's been one of the happiest moments, apart from returning home and seeing your partner?
Well, I'll tell you, the happiest moment is one which came out of despair, and that was COVID. So I think for us travelers, COVID was a really great disaster. And I found myself in the UK at the beginning of it all, choking, because I'm so used to traveling literally every week, and then suddenly I couldn't. And so I was in touch with my friend Bengt in Sweden, and Sweden didn't have a lockdown. And then after a few weeks, and he's a doctor, so I talked to him a lot about what's going on in Sweden, what are the risks of COVID. And he told me, you know what, you can come, you'll be all right. Just, don't overdo it. And I did. I risked it, and I flew to Sweden. I had to fly via Helsinki because there were no direct flights, but Finnair was still flying. And I think the happiest moment of my life was landing in Stockholm and just going and renting a car and thinking, I'm free. There's no lockdown. I'm going to a restaurant tonight. And I remember going to the hotel, and I hadn't really seen another person for 5-6 weeks. And I was just chatting with the receptionist. And she, I was just overjoyed. I think because what makes us travelers is this need for freedom more than anything. And when that freedom is compromised, that's when we can't function at all.
I'm in my mid-60s, and I'm on my 5th passport in my life. How many passports are you on?
I have no idea.
Have you got a big pile of them?
I have a big pile, yeah. I do keep them, mainly because I need to be able to prove where I was when I was somewhere, but I don't know. I must have more than 20, probably.
And finally, for the young, adventurous travellers at heart who are tuning into this, what advice would you say to somebody that's starting out on their 1,301 places to visit?
Well, I always say you need to know your own country well before you start, because when you travel, you're an ambassador. People will ask you where you're from. It's usually one of the first questions, and you need to know your stuff, so see your own country, and your own country will surprise you no matter where you're from, because the minute you leave your own town or your own comfort zone, you're going to see things that perhaps you don't expect. So that's always the first piece of advice. And the second one is take it slowly. My biggest regret is that I was hurrying it too much the first time round, and I think it's much more valuable to see the world in a slow way. In a way, I'm sabotaging NomadMania by saying this. I'm almost telling you, don't attempt to do too many regions, do 1 or 2, but do them well. But I think if you build on that, then you're going to enjoy the experience more.
My last question, 20 kilo luggage bag or backpack? How do you travel?
Backpack, of course. No, I never check in any luggage. No way.
Harry, thanks so much for being with us today on Traveller's World. Keep up the 1,301 destinations out that door. And you're an inspiration. And it's mind-boggling that you've visited 193 nations twice and you're over 1,000 places in the world that you've visited. I'm in awe. Thank you so much, Harry.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Cut.